Okay, so what we're going to look at today is AppStream 2.0. So like I sort of say in the other videos, I don't walk through these tutorials um, before I don't edit the videos. I like to sort of see what you would also see at the same time. So um, I try and do this kind of, without any um, pre-work done because I think the experience is better that you sort of see, you know, what I would also kind of experience for the first time ever. So what we're going to look at today is the AppStream 2.0. So I've gone into app integration and I found this hands-on from the tutorials. I always put these kind of links into the notes as well. So we'll kind of open that document, and so it says the AppStream 2.0 was a fully managed secure application streaming service that allows you to stream desktop applications to users without rewriting applications. Stream 2.0 provides users with instant access to the applications that they need with a responsive, fluid user experience on the device of their choice. So streaming service for applications. This is going to be an interesting one. So let's look at the hands-on. So basically how to set up sample applications. So we're going to look at sample applications. Okay. Basically sort of says it requires an environment that includes a fleet that is associated with a stack and at least one application image. Okay. So we need to have a few things actually set up before we can actually use this. So let's sort of see, setting up a sample stack, choose an image and configure fleet. Okay. Basically open the 2.0 console, which we have to do here. Choose get started if you're new to console. Quick links from left. Setup. Choose setup sample apps. Choose setup sample apps. Choose setup sample apps. I think it means choose. Is this it? Try streaming now. Let's sort of see if we can just search for this. Try. Choose sample. Sample. Okay, so we don't have anything sample. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this try streaming now because the notes basically sort of say if you're new to console, quick links, choose set up with sample apps, but I don't see that, right? So step one, stack details, keep the default stack. Let's sort of see what this does here. Agree. Let's sort of see what this does here. Choose your app to get started. This is not exactly what I want. This is not what I want. If I go back here, go back to stacks, fleets, images, user pool, application manager, quick links. Here we go. We found it here. Quick links right at the bottom. Set up with sample apps, which is here. So I'm going to click on this, set up with sample apps. Okay, so the name here, here's the details that we basically have to add. So it says name, enter name for the stack. Let's just sort of say example stack is fine. Let's sort of say description, redirect URL, specify user, streaming protocol, tags, endpoints. You can create a private link, which is an interface VPC endpoint in your virtual private cloud. Here to start creating an interface endpoint. Create. Select create endpoint. Okay. So let's sort of see. It doesn't look like you need to actually have display name optional. Description is optional. Redirect URL is optional. Feedback URL. So we don't have anything because we're just going to create something here. We don't have any of these. But definitely, try and learn about these if you were doing this for real, because we're just in exploration. Let's sort of see endpoints, which is advanced. Endpoint, choose next. Let's sort of see, choose next. Endpoints next. So this is the streaming service. That's also optional. Embed AppStream 2.0. And you can add a domain here, your tags. We're just going to click on next. We're just going to pick all of the defaults. Here it sort of says you can choose a sample image from this date. Okay, so it looks like we just choose image. A sample image is already selected. Okay, choose next. Configure your fleet here on step 3. Recommend to keep the defaults that are provided. So these are your explanations for all of those fields here. You definitely should read through these. Wow, there's a lot of these here. A lot of these. So we'll just click on next because this application has Firefox, Notepad++, Eclipse. Okay, it has these basic applications that are provided here. Okay, this is really cool because you can also do more info here. It's the latest agent version. The owner's AWS. Okay, so it looks like you can actually upload your own images and that sort of stuff, but we're just trying this for kicks. So I'm going to sort of say here, we can say for step 4, configure network default VPC is provided, so private virtual cloud is provided. Okay, keep the default, keep the default, keep the default, enable storage. Okay, so for that, we're just going to put something. It looks like you kind of created that. Virtual CPUs here, memory 4 gig, fleet type always on, user session details, fleet capacity, okay. Streaming view details, roles, IAM roles, so you could select a role here if we had any roles, but we don't have any roles as yet. You can check on the scaling details here, so scale up policies. Okay, so you could scale this as well, scale in policies, schedule and scaling policies, and you could add the scaling policies here. So there's a lot of options here that you can basically configure, and obviously the notes are going into that kind of detail of, you know, where they're telling you all of these kind of options that you can basically enable. So this is really cool here. So let me sort of see. So we're on configure network. We're on configure network, which is here. So this one here, configure fleet network, fleet, configure network, configure fleet. Let's see, next. Configure network. So we're in the configure network section. Okay, let's go to our configure networks. That's just step 4, default VPC is provided. Okay, keep all of these. That's okay. So it sort of says, you know, keep all the defaults. So you can basically create your own VPC here, which is your private cloud, or you can create a subnets and assign the subnets. But really, what it's doing is it's just creating all of these for us. So we're going to let it do that. Enable home folders here. So for enable storage, enable home folders, Google Drive or OneDrive. You know, keep the this is by default home folders, which is fine. User settings, so we can go in here. So that's okay. We don't need Google Drive or OneDrive for the moment. We can go in here and we can sort of say, okay, clipboard by default. You have clipboard by default, file transfer by default, print to local device by default, pass and sign in or Active Directory, smart card. A lot of these you can just read through 100%, definitely read through, copy and paste, read through. User settings, here's something. So you provide access to use. Okay, after you create a stack with associated fleet, you can provide access to users through the user pool. SAML 2.0, which is related to SSO login, or the AppStream 2.0 API. So for more information, you read those. For getting started, on this exercise, you can use AppStream 2.0 user pool. This access method allows you to create and manage users, permanent login URL. To quickly test application streaming without setting up users, complete the following steps to create a temporary URL. Okay, so you could do this. could do this, but I think we're just going to move ahead. Choose an image. So we have our image. We have our fleet. We have our fleet. We have a network. We have a storage. We have a user settings, and now we're just going to click on create. Okay. So basically, sort of says that the example stack, which we didn't rename it, was successfully created. Basically, okay. So now we have a name, a description. Obviously this is just exploration. Just make sure that you would do something right here if you're going to do it. Storage details, user settings, branding, streaming services, endpoints, all that sort of stuff. Then it sort of says for getting started, you use a pool, which we did. Test application. So to provide access to users with a temporary navigation player, choose fleets. Okay. Choose fleets. In the list of fleets, choose the fleet that is associated with the stack you want to create a stream service and verify that the status of the fleet is running. Okay, so it needs to be running. So you see here the status basically sort of says that it's basically starting. So what we're going to do is just going to wait for that to come up. Just one thing I want to sort of see here is your end user streaming through a web browser can now opt in. Okay, so that's just something to do with your actual web browser access, so that's nothing there. We're just going to wait for this starting, and I'm just going to wait for this to start. Okay. So it took a few minutes basically for our new sample example stack to come up. So basically what I do is if I just refresh this now, you can sort of see that the status of actually is active, right? So while I was kind of waiting for that to actually come up, what I kind of noticed here is, you get some good kind of information. Obviously, I'm in European Central Time about when the actual stack was created. So if I go into example stack here, for example, you can see this, the associated fleet here is the example stack fleet. Now, you can click on this link or you can go up to fleets here, and you can sort of see that this one here is actually still starting now. That's taking a while. I've probably waited 5 minutes now. Yeah, because it's now 23 minutes past 2, and here it's actually half 2, nearly half 2. Now it's half 2. So I'm kind of waiting 7 minutes for this now to kind of come up. But I'm going to try and do something here because here, as I'm kind of clicking around, you can also look at your kind of images, and you can actually see all of the actual images that are actually available here, which is really cool. So I'm assuming that you can obviously kind of search by name, platform, visibility, and instance family here, which is really, really nice. This is the one that we chose here, this sample image, um, from November 2023. It says Windows Server 2019 base is the base platform. And then if I kind of go down here, you can sort of see that this is all of the applications that get provided into that base image. And again, it's just, it's just really a kind of a test. It's just really a kind of test image. But it is kind of really nice that I can kind of go into fleets. I do sort of see it's still starting now. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to access this because it's still starting, but let's try, right? So in the navigation, choose fleets, which I did. In the list of fleets, choose the fleet that's associated with the URL. Verify that the status of the fleet is running. So it doesn't look like it can kind of do anything because it's still starting here. And I am in North Virginia here. I wonder if that's any issue. My account is associated to Europe. It shouldn't be, but we can kind of give it a few minutes. Okay. In navigation pane, choose stacks. So select the stacks and create streaming URL. So the stacks, and I can't actually select that right now. So I should be able to go into action and select streaming URL, create streaming URL, but I can't actually do that because this is actually still in starting mode. Great. For the user ID, choose select type it, type the user ID, choose the explanation time. Okay. To view the user, get URL, copy link. after you provide your users with access to 2.0, they can start AppStream 2.0 streaming sessions. You can provide access through the 2.0, because here it sort of says if you provide access through the AppStream 2.0 user pool, they must use a web browser for streaming sessions. So there's quite a bit of information on this, and it sort of says here as well, if you plan to use SAML 2.0, which is single sign-on, or AppStream 2.0 API to provide access to your users, you can make the AppStream 2.0 client available to them. Okay, so that's kind of how you would actually do it there. Then you've got a lot more kind of resources here. So it looks like this is the actual end of the tutorial. So I wouldn't, okay, cool. Okay, so it took 10 minutes because we actually created it at 23 minutes past. It's now 33 minutes past. So it took 10 minutes for it to basically come up. But basically what that means is I have a stack which is active. So its stack name could potentially be anything, but obviously, if this was deployed to production or whatever, you wouldn't be calling it example stack. But then you've got your fleet here, and our example stack fleet is running. And that, if I click into that, is associated to an image. And now I seem to get, fleet usage, which is obviously very little because I haven't used it yet. I can see the image details, which is here. So this is the image that I basically used, and here you go click into the image and see the details about this kind of image. Here you can see fleet configuration. So this is the type of thing, you'd want to be kind of configuring for your users here, just to make sure that they can only access a certain amount of time, and maximum session duration, 960 minutes. Disconnect timeout 15 minutes. This type of configurations you'd want to be kind of trying with your test user group. You can sort of see the network details here. So it created me a VPC and created me two subnets and created me two security groups. So I'm wondering basically if I remove this fleet now in kind of a few minutes, because remember we're on the free tier. We don't want to be um, not deleting our resources straight after we kind of use them. But if I delete that fleet and that stack now, would everything get cleaned up? So that's something we'll have to kind of watch for. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take those, and I do this quite often. I always like to kind of keep kind of quick notes in kind of some other place, but I just want to verify that that this stuff does definitely get removed, because if we went into, for example, our VPC now, it ends in 3CF. So if we went to VPC, we should see one here, which we do. So this is this. So the owner is me, 3CF. So this is that. So if I kind of click into VPC, you'd sort of see, this is your VPC here. You can see your routing table, all the information. This is the subnets that's basically associated with that VPC. So there's quite a bit of kind of information, but I was just kind of curious as to what that VPC looks like, what it kind of looks like behind the scenes. But for this tutorial, it's not really that kind of a critical. But I'm going to go back to AppStream 2.0. I'm going to go back into my stacks. I'm going to go into fleets, and here I should, so go into stacks, go into this, so highlight this stack, go to actions, create streaming URL. This is the user ID the user will be associated with. So what did this say? So we have to create streaming URL for user ID, type the user ID, check, choose expiration time. So to view the user ID, get link. Okay, so user ID, what can I kind of put in here? 0. Okay, so what we've sort of seen here is that if I go into my AppStream here, I can basically sort of see that the stack is complete and the fleet is ready. So everything's kind of ready. The problem is I don't actually have any user ID to kind of associate that with. So if I select here and do actions and sort of say create stream and service, here I don't have any user ID, right? So that's a kind of a small little problem right now that I sort of say, well, I don't have any user ID. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up to IAM, which is the identity and access management console. I'm going to go to users. I'm going to create a user here. I'm just going to call dummy user. Provide user access to this management console. Optional, I don't want to do that. So let's sort of say add user to group, copy permissions. We don't have add user to an existing group or create a new group. I just sort of say edit to an existing group here. So here I can click on create user, which creates it to the group 0, because that's for Linux basically. That's a default group. So here I can sort of say dummy user. So if I take this guy here, go back up to my, I've got a dummy user in here, add permissions, add permissions. So I can kind of play around and kind of, okay. So I can kind of play around here, but really kind of it doesn't give you great information here about how you'd actually kind of create your user. So remember, you know, I know how to create a user, I know how to create a group, but what we're trying to do is provide access. So provide access to the users. So for more information, so let's see if I can do this. So if I go back up to my, I've got a user permission now. Go back up to my AppStream.2.0, go to stack, go to stack, actually go on stack, select my stack, view action, create stream. So create streaming URL, for example, stack. Basically the user ID is dummy user explanation. And this would be copy link, launch in browser, choose the app to get started. Okay, so basically it looks as though, you know, I created, you know, really kind of quickly um, a dummy user. I just sort of said, you know, allow this dummy user basically to be able to access this stack here. And then let's sort of see if I can even do this. So let's see what this dummy user has permissions for. If it does, has anything. I can see this is connecting to Notepad++. Says loading applications, settings. Because I'm really kind of curious what this actually does with it kind of dummy user that's not, he's kind of part of the administrator group really, but you wouldn't be doing that as good kind of practice because group 0 would be the kind of root user. But you know, just as just to see if something works here. So it says loading application settings. It's taking a while. It's taking a while, and if I kind of go back to user pool, oh, hang on. So user pool here, create user, create user. Is that why it's taking so long? So maybe I actually had to create user pool. Okay, maybe I have. After you create associated fleet, you can provide access to users through the user pool. Okay, that was not really kind of clear to me. So let's sort of see. Okay, I got you. Okay, so I can sort of say here, Cloud Solution Architects um, .eu at gmail.com, and then I can kind of put in cloud here solution. I'll just do cloud solutions, create user. Okay. So here I can stop that, go back to IAM, remove that user. And again, this is why we do this. We kind of play around, to confirm. I just want to delete that user. I just want to kind of remove that user completely. I missed that actually, where you're actually creating the user inside of this. The user's gone. There was no groups created. The user's gone. Go back to your AppStream. Go back to your user pool. I can sort of see here's the email. So if I sort of say, okay, so now go back into my stacks, go back here. I've created in the user pool now. I've created just a kind of Cloud Solution Architects.eBay, Cloud Solution Architects.eu at gmail.com, which is good. Okay, go here. I can go back into my stacks. Go here. Action, create streaming URL. Do I cloud? Actually, let me just check something here. Let me just copy this here. The email, the name. I'm wondering if I need the email or I need the email or I need the username. Create streaming URL. The user ID. Add user ID failed. Okay, so it looks like I need the name. So it looks like I need to go to my pool, which is cloud here, cloud solution. And again, I just, okay, so I can stop and start it from there. But if I want to create access into it, looks like I have to do this. One validation error detected. The value cloud solution a user ID failed to satisfy constraint. Memo must satisfy regular expression pattern of only these types of characters. So I can't. That's my bucket name. Okay, so I think I kind of figured this out basically that, what the problem was that I'd created an example stack here. I'd created a fleet. Both of those were basically up and running. We knew the image was this image here that we were basically using from 2023 from Amazon. I'd gone in and created a user here. And basically, when I created this user in the user pool, I'd got an email from AppStream 2.0. The basis sort of says, your administrator is trying to give you access to AppStream 2.0, so please log into the link here, use this email and create this, add this temporary password, and then update your password, change your password, basically. And I kind of did that, right? And it's still, it gave me this kind of screen that says your admin hasn't assigned any apps to you yet. Contact your admin for help. I was like, okay. So I knew, everything was kind of looking okay here because this was the URL here that the app stack had basically kind of provided me here. So this is really interesting here that, when I went into this user here, I couldn't see anything, but it was only when I actually selected it here and I went to action here and assign stack here, right? So if I search here for assign, um, assign, the only kind of mention of assign that comes up in the actual documentation um, is really kind of in here, but I don't think it goes very deep into how you would actually assign the stack over here, So I think AWS could maybe kind of help that a little bit by basically sort of saying, well, you actually have to go into select the user, go into assign stack here, and now because I actually have a stack now, imagine I had 5 stacks, I'd see the 5 stacks listed here, I'm assuming, but then I can, send email notification to user. I don't think I'm going to do that again, but um, because I know what I'm kind of getting into, example stack, assign stack. So now I sort of see stack successfully associated to this user. So I know that basically this one has this stack of example stack. So now this is kind of making much more kind of sense to me here. It was a bit of a kind of discovery here, but basically if I kind of go in there, I know that it's assigned out to this one. So what I can do now is I can kind of return to login. Okay, so I can kind of just log back in here. I need to get that temporary password from here. Copy. So I can go into appstream.url, go in here, go into login. I don't update that. I want to keep my. And now, so now I have this URL, so they provide the URL to people. Here I can sort of say I can pick any of these. I'm just going to pick Notepad++, for example. And I can see it's connecting. Loading application settings. Because now I definitely have a user associated to this. Before I actually didn't have the user associated to this stack, but I've actually created a user and associated a stack. So that's how this kind of all fits together. Loading application settings. And if it doesn't look like I can choose any of these yet until this kind of loads. Try a new portal. He's already been, this user's already been assigned. What's that to do? Try a new portal. Application settings. Maybe this takes a kind of a few minutes to come up because it's the first time that I would have actually associated and loaded up these application settings here. But again, I mean, if you've never used AppStream, this is a kind of good discovery here as well. Okay, so kind of after a number of minutes here, it did actually come up. So I can kind of type in here. I notice it's a little bit slow, just a kind of little bit. Can I use it? Yes. Also, I'm kind of trying to learn a new kind of keyboard here. Yeah, I mean it's working. It's okay. I can look at catalog. I can kind of look at the windows. I could look at my file, so I could kind of just sort of save that off now. So I could save this into kind of system32, but obviously I wouldn't never do that. I kind of go back here and kind of go to your home folder, and you have your home folder and everything, but I'm not going to save anything. But the kind of point is that's how to use Amazon AppStream 2.0, and it definitely took a kind of few minutes to understand how the actual users kind of interacting with that kind of AppStream. But now I get it that basically you create your AppStream with your image, you assign your users, your users get an email, the email has to be activated. Once they're activated, it takes then a kind of few minutes. This is probably just the kind of first time that you'd actually have to kind of set this up, because remember that our image also had kind of Notepad++. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting one. I liked this one. It was a bit of a discovery, so it was good.